All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Men's Sexual Mastery Podcast. This is your host, Ben Timby, joined by my fellow co-host, Ian Hawks.
Hey, Ben. What's up, MSM listeners? Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, great to have you all here. And today we're going to be diving into a topic that is common amongst a lot of single men that we talk to, which is how do we attract our ideal partner? A lot of the guys who are especially just beginning this work can be caught in patterns of being single for long amounts of time and it seeming like there's no one out there for them. And this can often lead to the question of just like, how am I showing up? And how can I shift how I'm showing up to meet the partner of my dreams, to be in a long-term relationship? So I wanted to start by passing it to you, actually, Hawks, and hearing your thoughts on this. What would you offer to a brother who asks this question, how do I find my ideal partner?
Well, you alluded to it there, Ben. The core of it, as we always say, is the inside-out game. And that's really life. And so that shows up in all aspects of life. And when it comes to attracting our ideal partner to us, the invitation that we always offer is to hold up the mirror and look at, how am I showing up? What qualities am I embodying? And am I truly living as the man who is worthy of calling in that ideal partner? What's something that's really fresh in my mind right now is something that one of our mentors, Uncle Vince Chafin, shared at the recent Sacred Sons Leadership Summit, and he spoke to this practice of writing down all of the qualities that you'd like to experience in your ideal partner. So if you're single and you're looking to be in a relationship, you can write at the top of a page, ideal partner, and then just list all of the qualities that that are important for you to have embodied in your ideal partner. And then once you have that clear list of all of these qualities, scratch out ideal partner at the top and write your own name. And this is the practice of holding up the mirror. And then you have the opportunity to read through that list and really honestly audit yourself and check in. Am I embodying these qualities truly? Am I living up to this same standard and expectation that I'm choosing to set for the partner I'm calling in?
Yeah, well said. I'm glad you brought that in. Shout out to Uncle on that one. I love that practice. And I love the saying too that feels related to this, that it's we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are being.
Mm.
And in a similar vein, a thing I like to bring up to guys, very similar to this, is like, yeah, let's visualize your ideal partner, and what are her qualities. Let's say if you're heterosexual, if we're talking about women here, name all of her qualities, and then what kind of a man would that kind of a partner be attracted to? What are his qualities of your ideal partner's partner, which is what you're stepping into?
Mm-hmm.
And where are you not stepping into that?
Yeah. So this is another element of that same practice. And we can look at this through the lens of polarity as well, because there are certain qualities that you might write down that are very feminine. I want a woman who's so soft. She's so receptive. She's willing to surrender to my lead and so happy to do so. And that's great. If that's what you desire, wonderful. And I still think it's true that we as a man must learn how to embody some of those feminine qualities. But it actually doesn't mean that we have to be fully expressed in all of those ways that we would like our partner to be. But what is important is that if we're asking for our partner, if it's a current partner or a future hypothetical partner that we're calling in, then it's imperative that we as men embody the polarity of those really strong feminine qualities to create a masculine container for her to then soften into. So if you're looking for a partner who's incredibly receptive, how giving are you with your energy? If you're looking for a partner who's willing to surrender to your lead, not just willing, but gratefully melting into the surrendering of your leadership, how are you leading yourself? Where are you falling short of the leadership that you came here to embody? And are you trustworthy of that surrendering? Because ultimately, without being truly trustworthy, we can't ask or expect someone to surrender to our lead. So, again, holding up the mirror and just looking at what's here and now, are you practicing strong self leadership with your, for yourself? And are you living in coherence where your actions are reflections of your words and your thoughts? And are you doing what you say you're going to do? Are you trustworthy to yourself first and foremost?
Yeah, and that's very tied into confidence, which for many men is can be a major barrier to meeting a partner, to ending up in partnership. It's a lot of guys struggle, I know, with self-confidence. And what we teach in our community, there's many different aspects to self-confidence, but the center of it all, the foundation of it all has to be us building self-trust. There's a certain dynamic, there's a certain aspect to our being that's like shown in our eyes. When someone looks into our eyes, they're seeing into our soul, and what's inside of there. Like, can you look into the mirror at your own soul, and can you honestly say to yourself, like, I trust myself? Like, what I do, I say, and what I say, I do. And I am who I say I am. And if we're really being real with ourselves, and myself included, that is a moving target. That is a never ending internal growth journey, inner growth journey. And, this work, the foundation of it, the foundation of building self-confidence and building trust within ourselves starts with that. It starts with, stretching into who we came here to be. How does the truest version of yourself, the higher self, the version of you that you came here to be, how does he wake up every morning? Like, what's his daily routine? How does he move through the world? This is a lot of what we do in the training program in the beginning, just setting these foundations outside of all the sexual transmutation tools and all the exciting stuff. It starts with building this foundation of aligning our words and our actions and demonstrating to ourselves with time that we do what we say we'll do. And that's really the core principle of growth. And without that, we can listen to all the podcasts, we can absorb all the information, try all these, exciting practices. But actually, at the end of the day, one of my teachers, Kim Anami, says, like, you may not realize it, but like, you saying you're going to take out the garbage and you not doing that is what's standing in the way of you having epic sex with your partner. We echo the same thing. So, like,
Mhm.
building that muscle of coherence within ourselves, building that trust, which then comes out as confidence because it's embodied. We're not pickup artists. We're not playing a fucking game here, like monkeys trying to do some magic tricks to make a woman fall in love with us. No, we're actually just standing in who we truly are. And that is felt by women.
Mm,
When you're a man who's trustworthy, a man of integrity. And that's the kind of partnership that will make a long lasting, committed partnership. So,
yeah. Yeah. We're not asking someone else to fall in love with us because we're already in the process of falling in love with ourselves. This
mhm.
is something that I often offer to people who have recently come out of a relationship. If you've gone through a breakup recently or a conscious uncoupling, whatever you want to call it, if you were in relationship and now you're single, guess what? You're still in relationship now. You're just in relationship with yourself. And this is one of the most potent periods for that personal development, that time to evolve and grow as an individual. Because if that past relationship you were in didn't work out, if he or she wasn't the one, I'll say in quotation marks, the one,
Mhm.
there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why you and that person were drawn to each other when you did. You were complementary opposites that magnetized to each other based on who you were and where you were at and how you were operating at that time. And so if you're looking for something different than the past relationship that has come to completion, you must be different when you enter in the next relationship. And so taking that time of being single as a sacred relationship with yourself and really courting yourself, holding up that mirror, loving yourself, and loving yourself into becoming who it is that you came here to be and who it is that will attract to you that truly ideal partner.
Yeah. Yeah, and so much of the work we talk about all the time is when we can approach relationship with an overflowing cup, with that abundance of self-love within us and self-regulation, and really feeling connected to ourselves, our purpose, who we
Mm.
truly are. That's when we can show up in a generative way in relationship. And by default, most of us are operating unconsciously in just the opposite, which is like this extractive, needy energy, like deep down. Even if you're the best pickup artist in the world, you've slept with thousands of women, like many of these guys are still operating from this deep unconscious neediness and having
Mm.
to seek a woman outside of and seek sexual energy and pleasure outside themselves to fill this void within them. And this is really going to the heart of it. This is something also that Cleo talked about, I think back in I forget, 20 episodes ago or so, the Tantric Muse. We asked her, like, what's the number one barrier that you see with men in this work, of sexual mastery? And she said it's men connecting with their own pleasure, men outsourcing that or seeking that outside themselves. So yeah, that point you brought up is super powerful. And I wanted actually to shift gears here, Hawks, and ask a little bit about, I think it could be helpful for guys listening in to hear some personal stories around this. So, would you be open to sharing what that process was like for you before meeting your partner, who I know now you're in, a sacred long-term partnership with?
Yeah. So when my partner Aspen and I met, I was in a very deep relationship with myself. I had gotten to a place in my life where I realized I was ready for the real deal. I'd had a lot of beautiful, wonderful relationships prior to meeting Aspen that were fulfilling and enriching at the time. But if I'm being honest, I wasn't at a place where I was actually ready for the mother of my children. And I realized that is what I was looking for. So there was, on one hand, an awareness within me that, you know what, I actually am ready for the real deal. I would love to meet the future mother of my children. And so I was really consciously calling that in. And a part of that meant that I was not sleeping around. I was no longer interested in the short, impulsive, or just playful aspects of intimate relating with women. I was really focused on finding, there's just no better way to say it than the mother of my children. And so there was a letting go for me of some of those old ways of being where I would seek that sexual fulfillment outside of myself, where I would seek affirmation from other women in short term, fleeting relationships or connections. And so, with that, I focused that energy that I used to put towards, you know, attracting women. I focused that all towards myself, and I was in a really devotional practice of celibacy and of my own personal practices, my rituals and routines, like you were speaking to. I would wake up every morning and sit in Vipassana meditation for an hour, and I would journal, and I was doing cold plunges every day. And I was living deeply in alignment with myself. And there were aspects of my life that, I certainly didn't have all figured out, but I was in coherence. I was fully in love with myself, the man who I was, the man who I was showing up as, and who I got to walk around being. And I had a lot of confidence in myself because I was trusting myself and I was in alignment with myself. So,
And
um,
Hawks, is it worth mentioning too for guys who are new to this work? I'm guessing you were practicing semen retention or semen intention during this time. You weren't releasing, ejaculating a lot, right? Because that's worth mentioning as a side benefit
mhm,
to building your confidence, building your coherence, all of
yeah.
this stuff we're talking about.
Yes, I was in a very conscious, intentional practice with my sexual energy, and
Hmm.
was not watching porn. Yeah, when I say I was celibate, there was an element of celibacy with myself as well, which isn't what we teach. This was a little earlier on in my life than, uh, when now the structure and model that we teach allows for a deep honoring of our sexual expression with ourselves, but it's done in a really conscious, intentional, aligned way. But yeah, at that point, I was harnessing, I was cultivating, or at least in containment with my sexual energy. And like I said, I was directing that towards other areas in my life that were really enriching. And with all of that, I mentioned I was confident and I was not coming from a place of neediness. And I want to also mention that when I met Aspen, I felt a strong connection and curiosity right away. And I approached her and we had a conversation and I liked her vibe. And very shortly after that, I asked her out. And Aspen was also in a very devotional period of her life. She'd come out of a long term relationship, maybe around a year prior to that. And she was also in deep relationship with herself. And she was not at that point ready to to be in relationship with a man, with another man. So she said, "No, thank you, but let's stay connected. I'd like to get to know you better, but I'm not interested in going out on a date right now." And so because I was not coming from a place of neediness, I was unbothered by that. And I had a lot of confidence in that, given the appropriate amount of time and opportunity for her to get to know me and for me to get to know her, that, hey, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if not, then I'm totally okay with that. So there was a period of 4 to 6 months after I first asked her out, where we would get together with friends and share time and space and conversation. And I was able to just show up for the connection that was emergent in those spaces. And eventually, Aspen came around and she reached back out to me and said, "Hey, is that date still on the table? I'm ready." So I speak to this because there's the importance that you spoke to, Ben, of for us as men not coming from a place of neediness that's actually going to repel women away from us, and to practice patience and continue to trust that as I am showing up in alignment, whatever is aligned to me will come to me. And if it's not for me, then good. Just, if it happens, great. I'm in alignment. So it will be aligned to me. And if it doesn't happen, then it must not be in alignment for me. So this non
Mhm.
attachment. And with that, still showing up available, like showing up with intention, not contracting and shutting down. If I had been bothered and hurt by the fact that she didn't want to go on a date with me and I had just contracted and made up this story of like, you know, whatever. I don't even want to be with her, then that would have been
Mhm.
a completely different story. But I stayed open to it. My heart stayed open, and I continued to feel into what was true for me, which was, hey, I'm really curious. I sense there's a connection here, and I'd like to understand what that is. But I'm not going to pretend that I know what it is. I'm just continuing to follow the guidance so that I can have the opportunity for her to get to know me and for me to get to know her. And then if it's meant to be, it'll be. So non-attachment, but also still having the direction of knowing, like, yeah, I do want to I do want to learn what might be here for us. And as long as there hasn't been an explicit, like, hey, I don't want to hear from you or, you know, connect with you anymore, then, if that door is still open, keep knocking in a respectful way.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And my story, with my partner Taylor is actually pretty similar as well. Like I was married before, and I'd been single for, I think, going on 3 years around the time that I met her, and I'd had other aligned. I would say throughout my time being single, like I maintained openness as I was deepening in my healing journey and my work to I just want to be clear, like there can be generative sexual relationships or playful sexual relationships that it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive to you meeting your ideal partner. It's just like where are you coming from? We say all the time in this work, law is governed by intention. And I will say that during my 3 years of time after being married and just not going with any relationship unless it was the full fuck yes, there were times in that where there were really generative connections, that are really supportive to me in my journey. A lot of big breakthroughs. But similar to you, I'd say when I met my partner, Taylor, there was like I was so deeply on my mission. It was funny enough. It was the weekend of one of or you and I's first men's sexual mastery immersion here in Austin. And we had a group of like 21 guys, and John JP Kingston was with us as well.
Shout out
And
JP.
shout out
Love you, brother.
JP. And yeah, I was living this epic house and with great roommate. And I remember when Taylor came over, it was just like this house of a bunch of bros playing music, hanging out on the back porch, just feeling so overflowing with just brotherhood and mission and purpose. And we're all working out together, and just like I was like so just full on like life and like doing my thing. And like, women were just like a afterthought. And I remember Taylor told me just like the impression it made when she walked in. She'd never seen a guy who like had such strong friendships, and just like all the indicators of her is like, her whole system was like, damn, this guy's got a tribe. He's really invested in his purpose and his friendships. And it's just like all these green lights, green flags, for her. And I wasn't faking it or presenting it. But even with her, similar to you, she was like testing where I was coming from. She'd just come out of a serious relationship. And, there was immediately a lot of attraction between us and sexual tension. And, I was just direct with her about like what I wanted, and she with me. But she expressed to me, she had a promise ring on. And I remember you were helping me out. And this is the power of brotherhood. Like,
Mhm.
maintaining, honoring her promise ring. She'd chosen conscious celibacy after her previous relationship, and like there were those. I think it was 2 months that her and I started getting to know each other as friends, but with like a huge underlying attraction to each other, and just this obvious, palpable bond that was forming. During those 2 months, like, and Taylor can attest to it, like there were so many moments where I could have kissed her, I could have stepped over the boundary of friendship, but I held that line. And thanks to you as well, like your support, and just to show the power of brotherhood, like just being like, till she takes that ring off, bro, like don't, like this is a test, and I want to honor her guidance. um So yeah, similarly, there was just like a lot of this buildup, and I think it really is what it really tested our relationship to stay in that friendship mode in the beginning, and then eventually there was uh, a whole moment where she took off her ring, and we consciously opened into relationship. And yeah, I would say I just want to highlight like that piece around when she first came into my field, like when she first appeared, like I was just so overflowing with my full own fulfillment, and just
Mhm.
coming back to that, just really bringing it full circle back to in this whole conversation to that. It's actually really simple, just live really true to yourself, do what you love doing, and trust that the right person will show up in the right timing for you. And again, it's like the law of attraction, like attracts like. You're not attracting what you want, you're attracting who you are being.
Mm.
And sometimes even the energy of want, like think of that word, want implies that you're lacking something. So the more that you come from like, I want this, I want that, it's by its very nature, you are repelling the thing which you say you want. So just to bring it all full circle back to the beginning of this conversation, if you're a brother who's looking for a long-term partnership and someone to have a grow old together with, or have a family with, or have a life together with, which is like, that's ultimately who we're here to serve. Not that there's anything wrong with playboys or having fun or any of that stuff. It's just different games you get to play in life. It's just different choices. There's nothing right or wrong. But if that's what you're looking for, ultimately it comes down to who you are being, and are you being true to yourself? Are you filling your own cup? And until you get clear with yourself in that, I actually don't even recommend you focus at all on finding a
Mm.
partner. Really get clear in yourself.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a common thread that I just noticed in our stories, Ben, and that's allowing the woman to invite us in. And that's not a passive way of being, because we were both crystal clear in our desires and we owned that. And that is important for us as men, to know what we want and to be able to name it, to claim it, to say, this is what I'm looking for. I am interested in you. I am attracted to you. I think there's something here, and I would love to discover what that is. And I am willing to wait until it's a full fuck yes for you and you invite me in. And I'm not going to move past that boundary that you have as a woman until you truly are ready to invite me in. And I will stand here in my knowing, and I will stand here with my direction of this is where I'm oriented towards, and this is what I'm available for. And I'm not attached to it. But if and when you're ready, I'm here and I'm all in. And you don't have to say you're all in right away, but with our
Mhm.
energy, we're expressing that. And this is so important when it comes to sex as well. Whether it's future, whether it's the woman that you think could be the one and you're engaging in penetrative sex for the first time, or if it's a one night stand, or if it's a woman that you've been in wedding that you've been married to for 20 years. It's all still the same when it comes to sexual penetration. We wait as men to be invited into her yoni, and there's clear direction that we're bringing, but we're not forcing, because as soon as that energy of forcing comes into the equation, trust erodes away. And I remember very clearly those conversations that we had, Ben, because as you mentioned, the sexual tension, the attraction between you and Taylor was so palpable. I remember it even just on the second or third day that after you two had met. We were standing up on that platform at the back of your property, looking up at the stars. And it was like you and Taylor and me. And I was like, whoa, I'm so a third wheel here. Like, there's this energy between Taylor and Ben, and there's me here. and and yeah, it was really beautiful to be in that brotherhood accountability with you, and to be able to reflect to you that, like, yeah, brother, she's into you, and I feel you're into her. I know that. Everyone can feel that. And she's in relationship with herself right now. She's literally wearing a ring that she gave to herself to honor, to remind her to honor the sacredness of her individuation at the end of this relationship that she's come out of. And it's fucking imperative that you honor that for her, because if she feels coerced or forced into something before she's ready, that's going to taint the entire potential future of your relationship. And it's going to, taint her experience with men. So it's your responsibility to honor that deeply. And doesn't mean that you can't still keep hanging out and make your intentions known, but give her the space so that she's doing it on her own terms. It's got to be her choice. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. And it's certainly not going to be what it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And this just comes back to the crucial ingredient of brotherhood, ultimately, even for me as a guy who's like, my whole life is devoted to studying these things and, relational mastery, sexual mastery, all of this stuff. I know that without support, without the observer effect, as it's known, like the pattern interrupt to my own self delusion and bullshit that I tell myself, like, I would easily have fallen into not passing that test, and so yeah, just to bring it all in, like, I do think that when we talk about filling our own cups or just maintaining our center and not losing ourselves, in a relationship, and that comes later. But even in the beginning, like, to hold that polarity, to fill our own cup and to show up in all these ways, like, ultimately it takes a village, and I don't see anyone who does this without deep levels of relationship. And, just to come full circle for guys who are new to this work, like, if that's something that you're looking for, that's essentially why we created MSM. Like, it's a brotherhood, it's a community, and you're on weekly calls and you're able to share all these things that you're moving through with new dynamics or existing dynamics, and integrate these things in real time and receive that feedback, receive that support, receive that accountability, so that we do show up true to ourselves. We do show up centered in relationship and able to hold that. So yeah, I just wanted to bring a full circle into that, and that invitation to any brother listening in. If you're interested in getting into this work and learning more, we'll have a link below in the description to join our community. Be sure to check that out. And Hawks, are there any last pieces you want to add in here before we sign off?
I'll just circle back as well to the beginning of the call, in the incredibly empowering place that we can choose to be in if we're single, calling in that next ideal partner, feeling like, God, what do I do? How do I find this person? It's so simple. Just come back into that relationship with yourself. How can I cultivate myself into being the best man that I can be? And the rest is just bound to unfold. So just personal empowerment. It's an inside out game, and the universe reflects what we are exuding.
Well said. Well, with that, we'll sign off, brothers. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And again, check out the link below if you're interested in learning more. Drop a comment below if there's anything that came up for you in this episode, or if you'd like to hear us discuss other topics in the future. Leave us a review. That always helps as well. Share it with a friend. Big shout out to all the brothers in our community who make this podcast possible, make this work possible. Yeah, big love to you guys and to all you listening. Have an amazing week, and we'll catch you in the next one.